Have you ever had the feeling that something was wrong, but it was too late to turn back? It's strange how roads, so familiar by day, become something else at night. Curves that seem to shift, maps that lie, gas stations where no one's worked for decades, yet someone's watching you from the window. Some routes weren't meant to be traveled, and yet someone always chooses to keep going. In this video, you'll hear 8 true stories drawn from records, forums, police reports, and forgotten archives. These are trips that began with promises of freedom, adventure, rest, but ended in disappearances, unexplained phenomena, and returns that never truly happened. And perhaps the scariest part, in every single one, there was a moment when someone said, "I think we should turn back," and no one listened.
They were celebrating their 3rd anniversary, not with a party or lavished gifts. They chose something simpler. A road trip, winding through back roads of the American Northeast, surrounded by cabins, mist, and mountains blanketed with evergreens. Samantha loved to plan. She had printed 3 maps, downloaded offline trails, and marked every possible stop. Peter, on the other hand, trusted the GPS too much. "Why all this fuss? Google knows where we are better than we do," he'd say, laughing as he drove their rented Jeep. It was late afternoon when the main road was blocked by fallen trees after a storm. With no cell signal, Peter switched to the offline GPS. It suggested an alternate route, a narrow trail, supposedly reconnecting to the main road. They followed it, and that's when everything started to vanish. The vegetation grew denser. The pines blocked out the sky, and the sunlight turned a leaden gray. The dirt road narrowed into 2 deep ruts, like ancient tire tracks. Peter gripped the steering wheel. Samantha frowned at her paper map. "This trail, it's not on any map. Not the printed one, not the offline one." "It's fine. The car's moving, isn't it?" Peter insisted. But the trail seemed to loop back on itself. Everything, the trees, the light, the silence, felt repetitive. To distract herself from the growing chill down her spine, Samantha marked an X on a roadside rock with her pink lipstick. 20 minutes later, the same X appeared on the left side of the road. "Peter, we just passed this." "No way. It's probably a similar rock." "With the same pink lipstick X?" Silence. Suddenly, the GPS froze. The screen went black. When it flickered back on, it showed a blue dot stranded in the middle of nowhere. No trail, no way back, just the dot, blinking, motionless. Peter turned off the car. "Let's breathe, okay? Maybe we should walk back to the road." But when he opened the door, the sound stopped. Nothing. No wind, no birds, just the sound of their own heartbeats. Samantha followed him, and they walked 10 meters. But when they looked back, the Jeep was gone. Just underbrush, dense. No tire tracks, no trail, no X on any rock. They ran, aimlessly, lost, until in the distance they saw an old house, gray wood, with a single light glowing on the porch. Peter sprinted to the door and knocked 3 times. A very old woman opened it, her white hair tangled, staring through the strands. "You took the turnaround trail. You weren't supposed to see this." and she slammed the door. 3 days later, a forest ranger found the couple, dehydrated, disoriented, with no clear memory of what had happened. The Jeep? Found weeks later, parked in front of an old, abandoned cabin that, according to local records, had burned down in 1989.
They wanted to film an indie horror short, something simple, using drones, night vision cameras, and the desolate desert backdrop. 3 college film students took Route 375, known locally as the Extraterrestrial Highway near Area 51. The plan was to use the real setting for an authentic vibe. They didn't know reality could be far less predictable than a scripted film. Jared drove, Zoe adjusted the camera lens, and Calvin fiddled with the radio, hunting for paranormal static. They laughed when they passed a sign that read, "Warning, no stopping or photographing beyond this point." "They love their little act," Jared said. "It's all part of the conspiracy marketing," Zoe replied. That night, they camped at an isolated spot along the highway. They set up the tent, programmed the drones for aerial shots, and cracked open a warm beer left in the trunk for days. But at 3:47 a.m., Calvin woke them in a panic. "There are lights on the horizon." "What, like car headlights?" "No, they're circles, hovering." They crawled out of the tent, and there they were. 4 white lights, low to the ground, moving slowly in a triangular formation. The silence was deafening. No wind, no crickets. The lights, for a moment, seemed to shift positions instantly, as if jumping dozens of meters in the blink of an eye. Zoe started recording, but the camera froze every 5 seconds. "Are they drones?" "No, drones don't move like that." "Then what the hell are they?" At 3:12 a.m., Jared glanced at his watch. He felt a sudden wave of nausea and collapsed to his knees. Calvin fainted moments later. Zoe tried to run, but time stretched, as if sound and movement were dragged into a single, endless second. The camera fell. Everything went black. At 10:36 a.m., a passing tourist couple found them. Zoe was lying in the middle of the road. Jared was trembling, sitting in the open trunk of their car. Calvin was laughing. "Where were the drones? Where's the tent? Where's the camera?" Nothing was found, not the equipment, not the backpacks. The only trace was Jared's watch, frozen at 3:12. Later, the camera's memory card was sent for analysis. It contained just 6 seconds of footage, a spinning white light, and a voice whispering in an unknown language, something between static and a wail. To this day, none of the 3 can recall what happened between 3:12 and 10:36, but they all agree on one thing: those lights weren't from this world.
Julio had been a mechanic for 20 years. He prided himself on recognizing every odd noise a car engine could make. He never believed in legends. He scoffed at tales of cursed places, until he drove down Provincial Route 42. It was a routine trip, delivering a client's car to the next town for painting. The road cut through a rocky desert, flanked by silent mountains and lone cacti. Nothing out of the ordinary. Until, without warning, a tire blew out. Julio pulled over. He stepped out calmly, started the usual routine. But when he grabbed the tire iron, the air changed. Not a breeze, something denser, heavy, damp, almost thick. He heard a sound, like someone stepping on the rocks behind him. "Hola? ¿Hay alguien ahí?" he called out. No answer. Nothing. He went back to work. But then a strong smell of rusted iron. Blood? He looked around. The landscape was the same, but faded, as if the world had been washed in gray. And then he saw it. About 20 meters away, in the middle of the road, stood a wooden post with something hanging from it. An old piece of clothing, white, fluttering, in a breeze that didn't exist. Julio froze. His stomach turned to ice. That clothing, it was identical to what his brother wore the day he vanished in the same region in 1997. Approach it or leave. He took 2 steps, and the sky changed. The sun blinked out. In seconds, everything was dark. Not night. A shadow. Immense. Alive. Julio ran, jumped into the car, turned the key. Nothing. Then, in the rear-view mirror, he saw his own face, but with empty eyes, no pupils, no life. The car started on its own. The radio crackled to life, emitting a sound. A distorted recording of a woman crying in Spanish. "You shouldn't have stopped here. This land doesn't want you." Julio woke up hours later. In a hospital, a trucker had found him in the middle of the road, unconscious, eyes wide open, unblinking. The car? Never found. The clothing on the post? No one else saw it. But since that day, Julio has never driven again, and sometimes at night, he hears the crying from a radio that's turned off.
The Holloways were on vacation, a typical American family. Father, mother, 2 kids, and a dog. The plan was simple. Drive across Texas to New Mexico, stopping at diners, trails, and cheap roadside motels. Everything was fine until the car stopped. No sputtering, no shaking. It just died. A 2014 Ford Explorer, full of gas, recently serviced, running perfectly until that moment. "Maybe the alternator," said Ben, the father, popping the hood. But there was no sign of electrical failure, no overheating, nothing unusual. Sarah checked the fuel gauge. Full tank. They tried starting it again. Nothing. No cell signal, no shade, and the sun was starting to set. They decided to wait, but time felt frozen. The sun, though sinking, didn't move. The clouds stood still. The wind was absent. "Dad," said Ellie, the younger daughter, "why is the dog growling at nothing?" Ben looked. The family's Australian shepherd was staring at the brush to the right of the road, motionless, fur raised, eyes locked. Then it growled again and backed away, as if something invisible was approaching. Sarah suggested they leave the car and seek help. They walked for 20 minutes. Everything looked the same. No turns, no poles, no signs. The road seemed to repeat itself. They returned to where the car should have been. Nothing. Just asphalt. Empty. Total silence. No cicadas, no distant cars, no planes. Sarah screamed. Ben ran in circles. Ellie started crying, and the dog vanished into the brush. Finally, they heard a sound. Tires on pavement. An old car, a 1970s model, approached slowly. A gaunt man in a straw hat was driving. The car stopped beside them. He looked at them calmly, lit a cigarette, and said only, "You left the road. Now it decides when or if you come back." And he drove off. The next morning, the family woke up in the back seat of the Explorer, engine running. The gas tank was still full. The dog was asleep on the floor as if nothing had happened. But their clothes, covered in dust, as if they'd spent days in the desert. And in the glove compartment, there was an old, faded black and white photo. It showed a family sitting in the same car model, with faces identical to theirs, dated 1961. Vadim was a rideshare driver in a small town near the Arctic Circle. He didn't mind the cold or the silence, but he never liked Curve 13. It was a sharp bend in the road, cutting through a frozen forest. Some said it was where, decades ago, a bus full of children vanished without a trace. Others called it an urban legend. That night, a ride request came through at 2:11 a.m. Pickup near Curve 13. Destination, Kolmogorov Village, 40 kilometers away. "Probably a drunk hunter, lost," Vadim muttered, accepting the ride. At the pickup spot, nothing. Just the icy forest to the left, the road lit only by his headlights. He stopped the car, looked around. Nothing. But then the back seat sank slightly, as if someone had sat down. Vadim turned. No one there. Yet the app showed passenger on board. He swallowed hard. It's a glitch, must be a glitch. He hit the gas. The silence in the car was thick. The air grew colder. The windshield began fogging up from the inside. He wiped it, and in the rear-view mirror, for a split second, a pale face, eyeless, just two dark hollows, and a faint smile. He whipped around. The seat was empty. He slammed the brakes, breathing fast, opened the door, and stumbled out. Then he heard a voice. "Why'd you stop? I haven't arrived yet." He didn't get back in the car. He ran to a nearby military fueling station where a guard found him. When they returned to the road, the car was still there, engine running, lights on. In the back seat, they found muddy footprints, but the ground was dry. And on the fogged-up window, written from the inside, "Never look in the mirror at Curve 13. Vadim never drove at night again. And every new driver in the area gets one informal warning passed down among colleagues. If a ride pops up near Curve 13, let it go.
Nate and his younger brother Dylan decided to drive across Alaska. They wanted something out of the ordinary before Dylan's graduation. The Dalton Highway was the perfect challenge. Over 1,000 kilometers of ice, forests, and no civilization for hours. They packed food, supplies, extra fuel, and an old AM radio for safety and fun. On the second day, passing mile marker 416, Dylan fiddled with the radio. He was hunting for random voices, maybe even a military broadcast. All he got was static. Until a female voice came through. Soft, cold, almost a whisper, and speaking in archaic English. "The sky above is cracking. The ground breathes. Return while the wheel still turns." Dylan's eyes widened. "Nate,
Did you hear that?" "Hear what?" "The station, channel 416. The voice repeated each time with different phrases, poetic, unsettling. "The old one walks between the trees. Bury your eyes before it finds them. All maps are lies." Nate jotted down the phrases. Dylan recorded on his phone. But when they played it back, silence. Nothing was recorded. The next day, they stopped at a small gas station. Nate mentioned the 416 signal to the attendant, an older native man with a slow drawl. When he heard signal 416, the man paled. "You passed through there? That area, it doesn't broadcast anything. No radio, no satellite, no light, just things that want to be heard." Dylan laughed, trying to lighten the mood. But that night, Nate noticed something odd. The radio, even when off, emitted a faint static, like breathing. When he turned it on, a single phrase echoed. "Turn around. The ice remembers." They decided to sleep. But at dawn, the car had moved. About 200 meters down the icy road. No tire tracks, no footprints. As if pushed by the wind, or something that left no trace. With no signal, no explanation, they pressed on. To this day, Nate says he hears the 416 voice in his dreams, and whenever someone mentions Alaska, Dylan looks away. It says, some places don't want to be heard. They just echo.
Franklin Bell, 58, had been a trucker since he was 18. He'd crossed every contiguous U.S. state, knew the smell of the road, the habits of the night, the shortcuts no GPS could find. But he never slept at abandoned rest stops. That night, though, exhaustion hit hard. It was nearly 3 a.m. With blurry vision, bitter coffee, and a silent radio, he spotted an old gas station ahead. Crooked sign, broken light, but enough space to park his rig. He pulled over, turned off the engine, settled into the seat. Then the dashboard clock hit 3:12. That's when he heard the first horn. Long, deep, old. He checked the side mirror. Nothing. Silence. Must have dreamed it, he thought. But at 3:13, another horn. Closer. Franklin turned on the headlights. Nothing around, just the empty road and the husk of the station. He turned off the lights, leaned back. 3:14, 2 horns, short, in sequence. He switched on the radio, searching for a local station. Only one AM frequency came through. A piano, playing something slow and mournful. No voice, no intro, just the melody, as if someone was waiting for him to hear it all. Franklin shut off the radio, got out of the truck, walked to the station's old convenience store. The door was locked, but something was taped to the inside of the grimy glass. A piece of brown paper, faded letters. He could just make out, no one should be here at 3:12. The truck honks on its own. Franklin ran back, jumped into the cab. But the dashboard clock read 3:12 again. The same minute, as if time was stuck in that exact second, as if everything was waiting for him to make a mistake. The next morning, a cop woke him, tapping on the window. The sun was high, but the digital clock still showed 3:12. Sir, this station was torn down 12 years ago. What? This place burned in 97. A tanker truck honked 3 times before the fire. Franklin looked back. The station was gone. Just scorched ground and the echo of a piano playing in his head.
Liam was a backpacker, a solo traveler, minimalist, drawn to uncharted routes. His last blog post read, "Next stop, the absolute nothingness, the silent white beauty of the salt desert." He arrived at the Bonneville Salt Flats on a clear September morning. Cloudless blue sky, endless white ground. The road sliced through the flat expanse like a lone scar. He was last seen on a security camera at the flat's entrance, backpack on, sunglasses, water bottle in hand. Walking in a straight line. Days passed. Drones were sent. Footprints were found for 2.7 kilometers. Then, nothing. No tracks returning, no sign of a campsite, no water bottle, no shadow. But the strangest part? The footprints stopped abruptly, as if Liam had taken one final step and vanished, or ascended. Theories swirled. Some said he fell into a reverse mirage, extreme disorientation caused by the blinding white salt. Others pointed to magnetic zones that disrupt electronics and spatial perception. But there was an older story told by local indigenous people. There's a place in the flats where the world folds, a point where everything fades, even your own name. Months later, a group of explorers found something. A small voice recorder, half buried 3 kilometers from his last known point. It held one recording. A weak voice, struggling to breathe. No end. I walk, but the sky doesn't change. The ground doesn't touch my feet. I don't think I'm here anymore. If anyone hears this, don't follow the straight line. Liam was never found. But sometimes on certain cold mornings, truckers say they see far off a lone figure walking in the white, no shadow, no backpack, as if repeating the same step forever.
These are 8 true road trip stories that ended in absolute terror. From non-existent trails to inexplicable lights in a desert. From haunting radio signals to encounters with passengers who never got in the car. Subscribe for more real mysteries, conspiracies, and unexplained phenomena. Comment which story need you wary of the road. Like if you love true stories with a dark twist.